extremely delighted to have all of you with us this evening. For those of you who may not know, EBS has been in existence for over 5 years, and our mission is to provide services in business consulting, accounting, and marketing. We are also very cognizant of our corporate social responsibility, not just to the local business community, but to our country and indeed the region at large. I invite you to check out our website as well as our various social media platforms to learn more about our initiatives and just a few.
I'm sorry, you mute your mic. Your mic is muted.
Sorry about that, guys. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. If you happen to fall off of the call during the session and you're not able to reconnect, please note that we are recording this and it will be emailed to all registered participants at the end of our session. In addition, if you have any questions or comments, we do have a Q&A at the end, but you can also send your questions in the chat or just raise your hands and we'll be happy to address those. I will now turn it over to Jen, our accounting and payroll specialist, followed by Kiara. Thank you and welcome once again.
Okay, so good evening, everyone, and it's really good to see that so many people have taken the initiative to get their business going in a direction that would help you to be more efficient and really see what's happening in your business. So just before we get into the actual training, we just want to review with you why it is important to introduce financial management systems into your business. So just imagine that you are a captain of a ship and you're setting out to sail and you don't have a compass. You would be able to imagine how much difficulty you would encounter not knowing where you're going, how far you've come, what direction you're heading in. So it's the same way that when you have started out a business, when you don't have the accounting tools in place to really tell you where your business is going, you're going to encounter the same kind of difficulties. So why is accounting or bookkeeping information important for your business? And the very first reason is because it helps to track your business's growth and performance. There's a saying that says numbers don't lie, and that is very true. In order to be able to tell whether your business is being profitable or whether it's not being profitable, you must be recording your financial information to be able to see what is going on, what is happening, which direction your business is going in, right? The second reason is that it gives important information for decision making. So you have a business, you may have started off with, like 3 products, and you notice like different things are happening with these products, but you really don't know what is truly going on unless you have these numbers in place, and the numbers can tell you, hey, this product is moving faster than this product. This has a higher profit margin than this product. So those are the kind of information that you will gather when you have a proper accounting system in place. Now, the next reason is it can help you to attract investors, right? Because if someone who is seeing your business doing well, and they may come by and say, you know what, I feel like I can add some value to your business. I can invest in your business, take it to a different level. Once you have ready financial information available, you're now able to attract these people to want to invest in your business. And then the next reason is that it helps business owners to budget and plan. So you're tracking your business growth. You have the information that's important for decision making. You're now able to see like seasonal trends with your business. So you may be able to see that during the month of May, your sales are highest, or during the month of September, your sales are low in comparison as you do your financial information year by year. So now you're able to know what to expect when these months come around. You know how to budget and to plan for these months. You may also be able to dig deeper and find out what factors are responsible for this trend. Why is my sales higher in May? Why is my sales lower in September? Maybe I need to do something that would help me to boost my sales in the slow months, like an additional promotional campaign or something. So it's only when you have proper record keeping of your financial transactions, you're able to make decisions and plans like that. Now, why is it important for you to introduce a financial management system such as QuickBooks? First reason off the bat, it's user friendly. You don't need a CPA, you don't need a bachelor's degree in accounting. In fact, you don't even need a full background in accounting. You may need to understand some concepts, but it's very easy to use. You can use it, your employees can use it. It's very easy to use, very easy to understand. It's a one-stop shop. So you can invoice, so you can use QuickBooks as your POS. You can record bills, you could cut checks, you could pay staff, you can track inventory, while at the same time populating real-time information that will provide financial reports needed for decision-making and tracking growth. So to me, that is the coolest feature of, financial management systems, in that while your business is doing its day-to-day transactions and you're using your software to do all these transactions, you're actually populating in real time the information that you are going to need to make crucial decisions for your business. And next reason is that it enables virtual work. So QuickBooks have transformed over the years. And a couple of years ago, they launched QuickBooks Online. So now QuickBooks is on a cloud platform where you can access this anywhere you are, whether you're at home, whether you're in another country, wherever you are, you're able to access your QuickBooks, you're able to do your work, you're able to see what's going on in your business. So as a business owner, you don't have to be in the business, like physically sitting in the business to see how much sales was done today. You can look in your QuickBooks and you can see how many invoice was written for the day or who did what. So it enables you to work virtually, and we understand how important that is since these couple months have gone past. And then finally, QuickBooks has a feature called Audit Trail. So this enables you to have a certain level of control, internal control, where your business is concerned, making sure that the right people have access to the right things. So you decide that I don't want this particular employee having access to this particular part of my business. QuickBooks allows you to designate certain restrictions and access to your employees, and it keeps record of everything that is done within the system. So if I go in and I delete an invoice, I can go back, whoever is checking the audit trail can go back and see Janine deleted an invoice. And then my boss would be like, why did you delete that invoice? And you provide a reason. So in that way, it's safeguarding your business without you being there physically watching over everyone. It safeguards your business from things like theft and error and stuff like that. So that's in a nutshell why it's important for us to make sure that, one, there is an accounting framework, and 2, that you're using an efficient financial management system such as QuickBooks to help your business. So Angela, back. Angelo, back to you.
Okay, we'll now turn it over to Kira, one of our budding accountants. Kira?
Good evening, everyone. Felicia Boyle-Bazard, she likes to be called Fee, has over 15 years of experience in the financial services industry in countries such as the Bahamas, Switzerland, and various parts of the Caribbean. She is very passionate about the quality of her work and takes pride in assisting her clients. Fee has an expertise in accounting, developing and implementing business strategies, internal audits, and compliance reviews, and also a motivational speaker. She has many qualifications, such as the Masters of Business Administration with concentration in finance, MBA from Nova Southeastern University, and a bachelor degree in accounting, graduated with honors from the University of the West Indies. And she is also a certified public accountant, licensed with the Bahamas Institute of Chartered Accountants. Mistress Boyle-Bazard is a God-fearing individual, a wife and mother of 2. She is also a fitness enthusiast and enjoys current affairs, such as the local and international news, and she is passionate about the mentoring professionals and young women. Mistress Bazard is currently the Managing Director at Executive Business Solutions Limited, and is also an accounting and business transformation specialist. Please welcome our key trainer for today, Fee.
Good afternoon, guys. Hope you can hear me. Janine, give me a thumbs up if you can hear. I can see you. There we go. Wonderful. I am so delighted that you all joined this training, and it's a very good step in the right direction. So I'm going to share my screen with you. I hope you can see my screen. Just one second. There we go. There we go. Wonderful. Awesome. So, you know, the thing about it is we are, like everyone else, locked down. It's Saturday and we're locked. It's a holiday weekend. Can you imagine being locked down? So we said, look, it is the perfect time to give back to the Bahamas. The Bahamas has been very good to us. We're a young firm with young budding professionals, and our clients have been awesome to us. And so during this pandemic, we said, look, let us give back to the Bahamian economy. And what better way to do it than to have all these amazing people who make me look good, you know. So on the line today, we have Angelo Barr, who is, he's a CPA. He actually started out the session. So Angelo, we call him A. At Executive Business Solutions, we go by call name or nicknames. You know, some organizations use first names, some use last names. We use nicknames because that is what makes us family and makes us feel even more at home. So A, thank you very much for starting the session. Janine Branch Capron, she is an accounting specialist and also a payroll specialist. So she deals with all outsourced payrolls at Executive Business. Thank you for that intro, Jen. And then Kira Hepburn, we call her Kira, junior accountant, very talented Bahamian young lady, and we're so happy. Thank you so much for those kind words. We have Iran Bacchus, also junior accountant. He's on the line. And then there's myself, Camille Patterson, our marketing specialist, and business planning specialist is also on the line. And we have apologies. Actually, LeBron is currently on, and he's doing the recording should someone drop off, and so we can share the link. Bronny, thank you very much. for being here. And apologies, we have Tatiana. She's not here, our social media specialist. We call her Tati. And John is not here. He's our web designer. So all of our commercial websites, you know, he builds ordinary apps, etc. And Sion, our graphic designer, couldn't make it. So thank you very much, team. We really appreciate you. Now, our objectives for today: Executive Business Solution is a pro advisor. And so QuickBooks recognizes executive business as the representative, or one of the representatives for them here in the Bahamas, and they term us a pro advisor. At the end of the session, we would like for you to have a good understanding of QuickBooks Online. As owners, I saw the list that came in. The majority of you are business owners, and your main reason for being here is to get a better understanding of QuickBooks and how to manage your finances. And QuickBooks does an amazing job at this, as Janine mentioned. Now we want to be able to start your business off on a good financial track for June 2020. So today's May 30th. So we want you to start a new page June 1st, even though it's a holiday. You know, they lifted the lockdown a little bit. So hey. And we want to empower you to better understand the program, so to manage your finances better. And general motivation for SMEs. You're here because you're an SME. What is an SME? It's a small to medium-sized enterprise. So if you're considered micro, small, or medium, we saw in the stimulus package where there were loans being given out, they termed us as small, medium, micro enterprises. And so based on how much you pull in on an annual basis, you would fall into this category. Now, we're gonna, training tops an hour, and then obviously I wanna dive into your questions. If you have questions during the session, please, as Angelo mentioned, put it in the box or raise your hands, and someone from the team will unmute your mic so you can ask the question, or they will read your question. I'd prefer that we do it during the session. So if I'm going through a particular screen and I'm going to share my web browser with you, because what I did, I selected a business from one of the businesses that registered with us for this training. I selected a business and I actually populated QuickBooks using that business. So you get to see an actual Bahamian business live. So if you have any questions, let's dive into them. There's no such thing as a silly question. We're gonna get through it. So the first half an hour, we're gonna deal with just exploring what QuickBooks Online looks like. I know that a lot of you already have experience with this program, but it's fine for a refresher. And if you don't have experience, as Jen said, it's very simple and we'll get through this. The second half, we will actually book transactions into the system. And you may ask, why are we being so nice? Essentially, we believe that the Bahamas is gonna avoid a recession if the SME space actually rebounds fastest, not the tourism environment, not the financial services sector, but rather SMEs. That's our view from an accounting perspective. Yes, listen to everything else, but we're of the view that this will happen. This is what is needed to happen so that we avoid recession. And so we're saying if we can lend a hand to help businesses, small businesses, medium-sized businesses get on their feet faster, then why not? Track your finances so you can see where you are. So that is our motivation. Obviously, if you do better, we do better, because you are our target market. So the better you do, the better for us. Now, before we get into the actual website training, I just want you to regulate your mind a bit. I started out the pandemic season, the official, what they call the executive order, the emergency, state of emergency order, by saying, don't panic, plan. So during that time, I requested my viewers to not to panic, but to plan their businesses, plan for the next step. But I've changed that since the market started opening. So we moved from don't panic, plan to don't panic, execute as planned. So I want to keep that hashtag. Now, your business has the opportunity to contribute greatly in the speedy recovery of the Bahamas. And so I want you to really plan accordingly and execute, because this economy actually relies heavily on you. And you're here to learn, refresh yourself. This is half the battle over. You know, if you don't have knowledge, we perish for a lack of knowledge. So I would encourage, I'm very happy that you came, and congratulations for that. If you haven't done so already, use this time to create the best local business in your field. Listen, we can take over the economy by providing amazing service as small to medium-sized businesses. Yes, the big businesses are great and all of that, the big food chains and all of that, but if you're a convenience store, you have the opportunity to change your the way you think, the way you operate faster than a big food chain would. So I would encourage you to take a look at that. We're not diving in today on the business side of things in terms of business transformation, but I have done some videos during the time of the lockdown and the emergency order. So I would encourage you to go to my YouTube channel if you can, and listen to those videos. There's some good nuggets, if I must say so myself. And secondly, I want you to please focus on your pricing. Relook at your pricing as a business. Relook at your brand. Relook at your financial tracking, which you're doing right now, and your internal and external customers. So your internal customers are your employees. Treat your employees well so that they can look out for you. Your external customers, which are actually your real customers, you need to really treat them well, as if they don't owe you anything, and they're there to just provide, to assist your business. So treat them, show them love, show them appreciation. And again, don't panic during this time. The economy is going through a contraction, and we'll see things contracting, and we heard about it in the budget, etc. But I don't think, as a financial analyst, I don't think it's time to panic just yet. When it's time to panic, I'll let you know, but I think this is time to really execute. And if you are a local product provider, this is the time for you to start getting on the international market, because we will need not only local money circulating, but from an export perspective, not so much import. But if you can export, we would be grateful for that, so that it can help this space and help the Bahamas recover faster for all of us. Now, continue to discipline yourself. Remember that procrastination should be a thing of the past. If we decide to do something, let us execute, and execute well. Now let's get straight into QuickBooks Online training, which we all came here for. And I am going to stop sharing that screen, and I am going to share my web browser with you. Good. Jen, can you see my screen? Perfect. Now, if you go on to QuickBooks, the first thing, if you after this training, if you decide to take QuickBooks Online as your main financial management software, then once you type in QuickBooks.com, this will populate. You will see it will look like this on your screen. Now, what this shows you, you would see a picture of a computer, you would see a picture of a mobile. The great thing about QuickBooks is that you can download the app on your phone, as well as if you have a lot of transactions to put in and it probably would be difficult on your phone, then you can put it on your laptop. So you can use it on your phone as well as your laptop. And now you would see here that there are various offers. You would see, if you scroll, you would see at the top where it says pricing. First of all, you can go right away and try the 30-day trial version. That's totally up to you. Obviously, love for you your QuickBooks directly from Executive Business Solutions. But again, for us, once you get QuickBooks, that's the main thing. So if you choose to get it from the website, then I would encourage you to do the free trial, the 30-day. Trying it out is very easy. So your data wouldn't be lost after 30 days unless you decide to discontinue. But after the 30 days, you would just then convert to a paid plan. Now, when it comes to the pricing of QuickBooks Online, you would see that QuickBooks has their pricing here and their various packages. So let me just quickly look at what they offer. You would see the Simple Start, Essential, and Plus. So what is the Simple Start? Simple Start helps you to track expenses, track your sales, your profit, and you would see that that is present on all of the options. So if you get Simple Start, you would be able to do that type of tracking under all three options. Then create and send unlimited invoice. And that's the same thing for all of them. You would be able to track and manage your sales stacks. Now, the trick here is that this is the US version. So if you were to just purchase this with the US version, it will only give you access to US VAT. And that is a key that a lot of persons aren't aware of. What you would have to do when you click on the option, when you click to subscribe or to do the free trial, you would need to click on the international version and click on your flag. So that will then allow you to change your pricing or change your VAT to the rate that is applicable to the local inland revenue here. So I hope that is clear. So be very careful with that. Now it says it works on PC, Mac, and mobile. All of these work on PC, Mac, and mobile. For the difference here is that this is for one user plus your accountant. And I'm glad they included an accountant and obviously shameless plug, hey, who would you choose as your accountant? Now, your one is if you are a micro business and it's only you, you're a home-based business, get away from the boxes of paper, please. We want to move away from that because the main reason for moving away from that is because, for example, when they ask for this business loan, I'm sure if you had paper, you had to go through a lot of rings to get that loan because you couldn't readily download your financial statement or you know particularly what you were doing. So in terms of your finances. So if you're a small business, micro business, one employee, that's you, you're the cook, the janitress, the everything else, please, you may want to consider the Simple Start. And the Simple Start from an international version. And you could use the US if you're not VAT applicable. And so if you don't charge VAT in your business, by all means, take the lower price and do the US version. But when you need to go on to VAT, you would have to bump it up and transfer which wouldn't be a problem, transfer to the international version. So with the essential adds a few more things. Unlike the simple start, the essential allows you to manage and pay bills. So you can pay your bills. So in addition to invoices, you now have the bill platform. So you can enter your BPL bill, you can enter your Batelco bill, and whatever cable, whatever else. It also allows you to track in multiple currencies. Based on my experience, this is not really a needed function here in the Bahamas to track multiple currencies, especially in the SME space, but that's a feature that they offer. It allows you to generate sales quotes. So if quotes is the same as an estimate, just another word, but essential allows you to generate quotes. And if, depending on the business that you're in, you may want to access quotes, because that's where we're moving towards getting multiple quotes to see which one is the best and that sort of thing. Now, if you were to go to the plus, in addition to what the essential offers, the plus offers you to track your inventory. Now, if you're a hairstylist, you may not need to track your inventory if you're not selling products. But if you are for example, a convenience store, you may want to utilize Plus because you would want to track your inventory. And then with Plus, you also generate purchase orders. And purchase orders are basically, we do it, it's just a big name. And as an accountant, this is a very straight to the point training. I am not going to deep discussions as to what a purchase invoice is. This is very simple. We're going to make it as simple as possible. Remember, it's just like an order. A purchase order is essentially you picking up the phone. Hey, can you send me 3 pounds of chicken, 4 leg quarters, whatever else. It's just your order. You send, but rather than picking up the phone and giving your order, you're doing it via QuickBooks and you're doing it via a purchase order. And with a purchase order, you wouldn't have to then put in your inventory when the stock actually arrives at your enterprise. But what you would need to do is click a button and it converts from a purchase order into a bill. All right. Now, it also tracks your project or job profitability. And that is good for if you're a contractor. You want to see, or if you're an IT specialist, you want to track your profitability per job to see if you're making sense for the particular job, because you don't want to price it at $5,000 and you spend $10,000, so you actually made a loss. All right. Then with this version, it allows you to have 5 users plus your accountant. The essential version is 3 users plus your accountant. And the initial one is just 1 user and your accountant. So that is basically the options that you would have when it comes to QuickBooks Online or selection. Then, or you pick up the phone and say, EBS, can you hook me up with QuickBooks? Either way, and that way you're on our platform. And so you have at least a year without a price fluctuation. Whereas with QuickBooks, buying it directly from the website, they offer these special prices to get you in, but then after like a month or so, the price goes up. With our platform, because we're a pro advisor, our price is consistent throughout the period for at least a year. Now, we're heading into the meat of things. That's your selecting, and I wanted to start you with from ground zero, where you start from. So you select exactly what QuickBooks option you want based on the specifications we just went through, and then you hit subscribe. Now, we are using Metamorphosis Beauty Salon. that is a salon that I decided to select from the listing that came in. Now, this is what can you see my screen, Jen? Metamorphosis, good. This is what the general overview would look like. You would see that it says client view. Again, I haven't set up much information in here, so you wouldn't see a lot of things, and this is a new company. Otherwise, when you come in here, you would see your stats. You would see things like how much monies you have outstanding in your accounts receivable and how many things you have to pay. And so it's like a nice dashboard to say, hey, this is what is going on. But once you would have subscribed, the first thing that you then do is go to this gearbox on the top right. It looks like a car wheel. I guess it's the setup crescent or whatever they call it. I'm not that tomboyish. So you click on the gearbox, and the gearbox shows you an overview of things you need to start with. And I would advise you to set aside 2 hours, maybe 3 hours to get through your setup. So if you have the choice of obviously hiring an accountant such as EBS to do all your setup, but if you're a micro business and you're looking at your dollars, you can certainly do this yourself. Don't let any accountant tell you that you cannot, this is beyond your capacity to do. It is really not. It is QuickBooks allows you to break it down. Well, they break it down for you and they show you step by step. Now, so you click on that gearbox, you see this big profile comes up. Don't allow it to scare you. There are 4 sections that we're gonna deal with. Your company section, and under your company section, that has just this general setup of your company. So we're gonna put the name, we're gonna add the logo, we're gonna manage users, custom styles. So your invoice styles, we're gonna play around with that and set up direct style. Then under lists, obviously there's the chart of accounts. This is the only tricky part. However, QuickBooks pre-populates your chart of accounts. Your chart of accounts is like, I like to look at it as various buckets. The accounting term is your general ledgers, but let's not get into the general ledgers. We are looking at the chart of accounts as various buckets. In these various buckets would hold the things that you are booking. So your sales would be one bucket, your inventory, another bucket, your bills, another bucket, and so forth and so forth. And sometimes, say for example, your bills, in your bills pool, you would have several buckets in that bucket. So what that means is you would have a bucket for Batelco, a bucket for Cable Bahamas, a bucket for BPL, and whatever else your expenses. Likewise, for your sales bucket, you would have several sub buckets under that, and those are things like, well, customers. So you would have a bucket for Jen, who is a customer of your hair salon, Felicia, Cam, and whomever else. Now, then we get into QuickBooks Labs. QuickBooks Labs, it's just playing around with nice graphics and stuff that you can bring in and templates. But I'll touch on it, but I'm not gonna deal with that. Then we get into lists. Your list is creating your products and services. All lists basically shows everything under, so it would include a pocket for your transactions, your attachments. Again, as I go through, if you have questions, please raise your hand, ask me a question up front, let us deal with it throughout. We have enough time to finish this, and that's why we put it on to 7 o'clock. So we're gonna take our time. If you have questions, ask so that we can deal with it. I want everyone in this session to leave knowing QuickBooks Online or having a good understanding of what it's all about. And that's for me would spell success for this session, that you understand it and you can be self-sufficient in this regard. Now, under the products and services, that's where you would set up your prices and the name of your products. Then recurring transactions. The beautiful thing about QuickBooks Online is that if you are, for example, a pool business, or you have a subscription-based business where the price does not change month from month, then you can set up recurring transactions. So that way, you would set this up so that at the beginning of the month or whatever time you want to specify, the invoice would be shot out to the client at that particular time and they would receive it and obviously pay their bill. And you don't have to go in and create that invoice from scratch and do the same thing over and over. Attachments. This is a good place to put your business license, copy of your business license, etc. What I found that QuickBooks has a very good protection in terms of it's hard to hack into. And if someone tries to hack in, they ask you for codes, they ask to call, etc. So it is quite robust and you can't beat an efficiently priced system and also secure system. So feel free to put your attachments. And then under tools, you would find, you can order checks. Now it says order checks, obviously it's not for the Bahamas really, because you know how it is. We have to go to the banks tell us come back in a week, whatever the case is. I hope that COVID would encourage these banks and financial institutions to really assist small to medium-sized businesses. I don't know how many of you have this great pet peeve, as I do, in calling banks, and you listen to these horrible music, and then after about 15-20 minutes, they would answer. When they answer, then they say, okay, let's transfer you to the branch. First of all, somebody from somewhere else answers. They, first of all, don't understand what you're calling for. And then when they transfer you to the bank, the person doesn't answer. And I'm like, you know what? I am trying to keep my Christianity, but you're making me shift my anointing. So I usually say some words that I have to go back to Jesus and repent for. But I don't know, maybe that's only a me problem. Ordering checks, we have import data. Now, if you were a QuickBooks desktop user, we can certainly transfer, and I see the comment section blinking. So obviously, Erie, if there are questions, unmute your mic and ask me, please. We don't want anyone question being left behind, and then we have to go back here. So import data, you would, there's a way to import the data from your desktop into your QuickBooks Online. And while desktop is nice and all, I personally think that desktop is certainly going to be a thing of the past. Obviously, there's certain desktops that you cannot get away from. So if you're more getting into the macro business, so the bigger businesses, the over 3 million businesses, then you probably QuickBooks, you'd probably be doing, if you're a manufacturing firm, etc., then you probably would need to utilize the desktop where you have network systems. But for our purpose for SMEs, this is a very good platform. And if you're on the desktop, then you import your data. You either call QuickBooks and ask them to help you with it, or you call EBS and we can help you get onto the QuickBooks Online platform. Erie is amazing. Yes.
Excuse me, Fee?
Yes.
Yes, there's a question. Can you have 2 separate businesses in one?
I like that question. Why? Because I cuss my clients all the time. Trust me, we have that love relationship. I cuss my clients all the time about commingling funds, right? So while you can have an intercompany account, and we'll get into that, you keep apples separate. So you would have two different QuickBooks companies set up for your two businesses and not run them in the same business, because it would be commingling your profit and loss statement, and it's just going to be a mess. Unless you have two products. So if you have, say for example, you are creating body butters, locally made body butters, and you have different scents or different product lines in your business, obviously that is considered the same business. But if you have Auntie Jackie's food catering business, and you have Metamorphosis Beauty Salon, I can't advise you to put them in the same business because they're totally unrelated. But thank you very much for that question.
Sorry, there's another question. Someone's requesting the pricing for our QuickBooks.
Sure, and we will certainly email you that. Just put your email address. And we'll actually send it out to one of the consultants. Will get in touch with you after the session, everybody who has registered, and we'll give you all of that. Now, if exporting data, if for some reason you decide to move from QuickBooks Online to QuickBooks Desktop or to another program that is compatible with QuickBooks, it's very easy to do this. And then there's this nice tab called reconciliation. This is something that we all need to get a grip of, because a lot of businesses, we put the monies in the bank account and we don't realize that that's how some of these tellers get rich on us, right? So, and I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but that's a real situation. I'm sure sometimes you see in the newspaper, Bank X notifies the public that person B is no longer employed with the business and is not allowed to transact any business. When you see that kind of stuff, you know it's theft, really. It's a bad breakup. So if you don't reconcile your bank account to your QuickBooks or to your sales and your expenses, chances are you're opening yourselves to theft. You're opening yourselves to fraud, and you wouldn't even know that you're supplying your household and somebody else's household. And it's very easy for that to happen. So that's where the reconciliation comes in. And then there's the budgeting section. We all need to be aware of budgeting and follow our budgeting closely. Then there's the audit log. As Jen said, you can see who did anything in the system. So if there was a fraudulent transaction or something happened, we can certainly trace that back for you, or you can do it yourself by seeing who did what and see if you need to call RBPF. Now, the smart lock, not sure what smart lock is, but we'll get to that. And I'm very honest, I don't remember. It's obviously nothing that is.
Sorry, Fee?
Yes.
Yes, someone is asking, what does reconcile mean?
Sure, yeah, good question. Good question. Reconcile is basically where you are making sure that the monies and we're using bank reconciliation because you can have reconciliation of various things. But for the purpose here, it's making sure that the monies that you bring into the business also got deposited to the business. So any monies that you brought in from sales, from it hit your account, your clerk, the person at your front desk or whomever, those monies are, you can trace it back to your bank account. And then if you spent out of that money, so you use cash, which I always try to advise my clients to stay away from, try to use bank transfers as much as possible. I don't even encourage checks anymore. Use bank transfers, wire transfers. Secondly, if you don't want to use the wire transfers, then use your checks. If you have to use cash, then make sure that you have a petty cash system. So you write a check into the petty cash, so that's cash in your business, and everything that you spent out of there, you would have a receipt that goes along with that that cash. All right. So basically bank reconciliation is making sure that everything stays everything, and you're able to see where the monies were spent and that you're not being robbed. All right. We do it. It's no big thing, you know. 1 second. Yeah, we do it all the time. We call it looking at our monies. It's just another name that accountants use, reconcile. We all know, or we should know, how much monies came in and how much monies go out. Now, the profile, this is the Intuit account. That's just your account with QuickBooks. It tells you about your feedback, your privacy, and here you can click and get into if you have other companies. Now, that's just an overview of all the things. I remember I took you 3 hours, about 3 hours it will take you. If you are a slow typer, it'll probably take you about 4. So now is a good time under lockdown to set up your company.
Sorry, Faye?
Yes.
Yes, I have a few questions. Someone asks, what is required for government or VAT reporting?
Good point. And we are, this is a very smart group we have here. We're actually running ahead, but it's a good question. Like I said earlier, if you are a VAT entity, then you will not be using this section. You would not be using the US version. You would be using the international version. And with the international version, you will have you'd have a section where you can specify the 12% VAT rate, and I hope it stays 12% forever and ever, or go back to a lower, or just take it away altogether. But that's me being wishful. Okay, so let us set up Metamorphosis Beauty Salon. We're clicking on, remember we're on this section, the crescent or whatever, is it the crescent? I don't know. This tool gearbox looking thing. So we're going to account and settings. Under account, yes?
Before you go on, I have some questions.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, can you have more than one bank account linked to the QuickBooks?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. But based on my experience, you can have the bank account set up in the system and set up to reconcile, but based on our bank restrictions, we can't do as the US people do in linking the bank account so it pulls the information from the bank account into your QuickBooks. So it's more of setting up the banks in your chart of accounts. Remember the buckets that I spoke about? So you'll have one bucket as your Bank of the Bahamas, one bucket as your First Caribbean, and the other one as whatever else you bank with. So yeah, absolutely yes. What is the next question?
Okay, the next one is, how do you get the international version versus the US?
Sure. When you click on the, going back to the pricing, if you click on buy now, Jen, you can see my pricing screen? Good. No? Good stuff. You would see the first, do you see this flag? The Bahamas, you make sure that you are selecting the Bahamas. And once you go, I don't want to go into
okay.
Yeah, you're doing a great job. Thank you, my co-host. So once you go on, there'll be a section to change. You see here, you're signing up for QuickBooks Online in the Bahamas. Just make sure that it says in the Bahamas. Once you click on the particular one you want to buy, make sure that it says that you're signing up for QuickBooks Online in the Bahamas. So that should answer your question. Next question, please.
The next one is, are we getting certificates after this training?
This is for business owners. So if we have some persons who just slipped in, that I welcome you, but particularly I don't think any business owner would be looking for a certificate. But by all means, just the fact that you can save your the login information, the email that we would have sent you to make it known that you joined the program. But this particular session is for business owners or their direct employees to help them to advance and not so much of putting on your resume. But by all means, you can certainly add on your resume if you slipped in without a business, that you attended a training with executive business, and should we be called, we will check the log and just make sure that you did.
Okay, another one is, are you able to produce a management or operational report in QuickBooks?
Okay, we'll get to that. And that's good. So if you notice a question that we'll get to, then just hold that, we'll get there. Yep, can I continue?
Yes, you can go on.
Awesome. So remember, we're on to account settings. Account settings, here it's the company section. Here, obviously this is not Metamorphosis logo, but it's just a placeholder. What you would then do is click on this little button here. You'd say plus, and you would be able to either upload something that was there before, or you add a logo plus, and then find it in your, wherever you have the logo saved. So once you would have done that, you would populate your logo, you would put your company name, you would put the legal name, same as your company name. So for this purpose, we know that we're dealing with Metamorphosis Beauty Salon. So for shorts, I'll put it Metamorphosis Beauty Salon account. We have challenges spelling, so I prefer to not embarrass myself. Metamorphosis Beauty Salon, we deal with numbers there. Now, is your legal name the same? Yes, it is. And you would see here, use on your 1099. Don't be scared about that. 1099, that's the tax form in the US. This is a US company, because I'm assuming that Metamorphosis does not have a, does not pay VAT. So I chose the US company, which is cheaper, rather than an international company, because with an international company, the price is more. So if you're not a VAT entity yet, you can feel free to use the US company. And once you become a VAT entity, you can always transfer to the international version. Now it asks you for your EIN number. This is the US, but this would be the same as your TIN number, your tax identification number. So whatever tax identification number you have, if you have one, obviously we all should have tax identification numbers, even if you're not VATable. So you can put your TIN, and then you move on to if you are, once you become VATable, you can, it'll be the same thing. Now, just a point on this, as a small business, guys, please make sure that you set yourself up with inland revenue. I do not, as an accountant, I do not encourage any other thing. We look for legitimate businesses. It is very inexpensive and very quick to be set up with inland revenue. So I would encourage all of you, whether you're selling your excess garden supplies or your garden produce, still register yourself as a legitimate business with inland revenue. And now the company, you would hit save. Once you put that, save. The next section, you would open up, save. Would you like to leave without saving? No, so I'll just save that. Voila. The next section is, it says company name. So we would click on that, tax form. Is it, and if it's a limited liability company or a sole proprietorship, and these just again have the tax numbers for the US because it's a US company. Obviously, the same names apply with the exception of like corporation. In the Bahamas, you can either be a sole proprietor, and you're a sole proprietor if you're basically, you're not a company, you're just a sole trader. So it's the same thing. You would click on that. So metamorphosis, sole trader. If she was a company, then she would click limited liability company. If it was a partnership, then you would click on partnership. And industry, it's beauty. And so we would then save. Contact information, I have my email address, but obviously she would populate her addresses, her company number, her website, and there's a rationale to the madness here. When you populate these things, they will transfer to your invoices, and they will transfer to your, if you have a quote. So it is important that you spend some time in this section and populate accordingly. You would put your address. So I know that Metamorphosis is located on Bar 20 corner, well, Jerome Avenue off Bar 20. So I guess it's Jerome Avenue, and she would populate accordingly. And communication with Intuit, yeah, this is just their marketing gimmick. I would stay away from that. Now that's under the company. Do we have any questions relating to this section? No. Usage. So we're going to take questions just to keep it relevant. If there's a question to a section that I'm dealing with, we'll answer it. If it comes up during the other section, then obviously our team will field it to me during that section. And if it doesn't come up at all, we'll answer it at the end, just to keep everybody organized. Now here it says usage, and your usage, we see that you have up to 5 persons that you can utilize. So here is where you can click on users, and you can populate with whichever user you choose to give access to QuickBooks. So if you have a username, someone else in your business, you would click, so we go to user, let's just click users. And in this section, you would add your user, add user. And like Jen said, you can restrict what they see. So here it would be standard user, or you give them, with a standard user, you can give them full or limited access without admin privileges. So it all depends on what you want to do. Or if it's a company admin, they can see and do everything. And if you want them to view reports only, if you can have someone viewing reports only, but they're not counted to your users. And if they need to track time, so if you're a law firm and you want to track your time, then you would click this section as well. Good, so you set up your users. Usage, good. Then the chart of accounts. With QuickBooks, there are various areas to do the same thing. So in the overview, you would have seen there's a specific section for chart of accounts, so I wouldn't go there just yet. Then under sales, they would ask you, a few questions, and these questions again aren't brain surgery, so you would go through them. The questions, for example, customize the way forms look to your customers. And here is where you can spend some time to customizing your forms. So that would be your invoices. So if we go here we would see we don't have many forms set up. So we would then add, if we want to add an invoice template, an estimate template, and if we were to add an invoice template. So this is what it looks like. This is the basic, and we can change things around, play up with it. Obviously, the basic template is what it is. So you don't have to do anything, but if you want to be fancy, by all means, utilize your logo edits and your splash colors and all of that stuff. The main thing is, if you don't want to get into all of that and you just want to go with the stock design, that is fine too. Exit. So we're not going to exit that. We're going to click done, and that is going to populate there. Awesome. So in addition to standard, we now have an invoice, and we can actually put an estimate template in there, which we can use. And we'll create the estimate template because when I show you how to book a transaction, we would do an estimate. So I'll click done. And the other style is sales receipt. Just one point to note, the difference between an invoice and a sales receipt. If you are like Metamorphosis, she is a hairstylist or a beautician. If someone comes and she offers them credit, so they only pay a certain amount on their bill, then she needs to do an invoice. The invoice would then show that the person owes the balance. If the person pays the bill in full upfront, it's cash or whatever, she would do a sales receipt. So the invoice and the sales receipt do the same thing, with the exception of if there is a partial amount paid or none at all paid, then you utilize the invoice. Hope that is clear. We'll still put a sales receipt template as well. Good stuff. Let us, and obviously if you're in this section, don't lose your way. Go back to your little gearbox. Remember, we're on accounts and settings. Once we get to accounts and settings, we were under sales. This is the section that we utilize, the customize. This asks you some certain questions. Preferred invoice terms. Remember, I told you that invoices are on credit. In this case, you would do, what is the credit term? How long do you give the person credit for? Is it that the invoice comes due after 30 days? What is the case? So you click on this little pencil and you have the option to change. Is it 30 days? Is it net 15, net 30, net 60? Is it due on receipt? So did they owe the amount at that time when the service was provided? So let's put due on receipt. Preferred delivery method. If you don't deliver, then you keep these off. If you deliver, then you would play around with these and change it to what you want. Then it has custom transaction number. Do you want a particular transaction number? If you want a transaction number, then you can click yes. I like to click it off because we will just use with the invoice number and not the transaction number. Do you want to see discount on your form? Yes, you want to see discount. You want to see a deposit, because if it's an invoice, then that means maybe they paid an amount to you. So you want to see that section on it that says deposits. Do you want to add a tip section or a gratuity? I don't think Metamorphosis would necessarily want to track that. If you want to track it, by all means, you can click it. So you hit save. Then the products and services section. Show products and services column on the sales form. Show product and service column on the sales form. Do you want to show it? Yes. So that would just show what type of product you're selling on the invoice. Then you would, again, if there's any question on this section, stop me, Kira or Erie. And then you would turn on the price rules. This is just, you can read up on this, but this is not really relevant based on my experience here with businesses locally. You don't necessarily need this. Track quantity and price rate. Yes, you want that on. Track inventory, quantity on hand. Yes, if you have inventory. Late fees, you can choose to charge late fees if they pay after, but we'll leave this off. Progress invoicing, so create multiple partial invoices from a single estimate. So what this is, if you're a contractor and you send out an invoice for different things on the invoice, so the whole invoice comes up to $30,000, but for the invoice they say, the customer says, no, we're only going to take this section first. Then if you have this on, this will help you to only invoice part of the estimate. And you can always go back to the estimate and invoice the other part when it comes due. So this is a nice feature to have, because if you take it off, what it does, the invoice, the estimate converts totally into an invoice, and so you lost or you lose the invoice, the estimate amounts for the other sections. So this is a good one to have on. Messages, you can choose default email messages, or you can make it specific. Reminders, if you want it on, if someone owes you, then they'll receive a gentle reminder. Please remember to pay your bill. We're looking forward and we're happy for your business, or whatever else. Online delivery, email options for all sales forms. So obviously we're in a special period now. So if you're offering online sales, you want this section on, and you would tailor it to how you want it. Statements, show aging tables at the top of statement. And this is just if you have to send a customer statement, then you can format the section to show how you want it to look like. And I don't want to scare you with all this information for this section. It's very simple. It's just a matter of, if you don't want it, you click off. If it looks like something nice, you have it on. If you click it on and then during the process you realize you don't want it on, you can always go back and click it off. So don't be scared with the amount of information here. It will take you a minute or two to get through it, but it's quite doable. Now, again, this will be, we had the sales, expenses, payments, where QuickBooks gives you many options to get the same thing done. So we would not do these in this section. So all I want you to focus on is to get your company, your logo and your address and everything set up. Then I want you to do who you're going to give access to, and you don't need to decide right away who you're going to give access to. You can always come back to this. And we're going to leave that there, and we're going to head into the next section. So how you get to the next section, again, you just click this little X, you come out, you go back to your gearbox. We completed the account settings. In the account settings, we also did manage users, so there's no need to go back here. This is just QuickBooks reiterating. Like I said, there are many ways to get to the same thing. Custom form styles, you would have seen that we also dealt with this in the account settings, so there's no need to go back into this section. What we did not do is the chart of accounts. And I don't want you to be scared in this section. The chart of accounts, again, would be your buckets. So we're going to look at your chart of accounts as your buckets, but you need to have this set up right off the top to ensure that you have this done. What QuickBooks does is it populates your chart of accounts with possible buckets that you would use depending on the industry that you selected. So that's why it's key under this section, the account settings, that you would have specified exactly which industry you're part of. So let's go. Yes, go ahead.
There's a question. Can users be removed?
Absolutely. Woo. If someone leaves your organization or you need to revoke access because they did some funny business, you go straight ahead, log in, the same section, this little crescent box where it says manage users. You click on manage users, and currently we only have myself here, but obviously you would have more users. And right away, once you get here, you actually click on the user, and since it's only me, it wouldn't show up that I can deactivate myself. But if you had another user, it would show under action, would show delete or a halt usage. So that is, to answer your question, yes, you would go straight to this is your toolbox. Don't forget, this is your toolbox in QuickBooks, and it actually controls a lot of things with your settings. So any other questions for that section, Janine, before I get to chart of accounts?
Yes, there's another question. If there are two owners, how do you set up the users so each owner has equal admin privilege?
Yep, great question. Again, you go back to manage users, and you would add, so I am here as a master admin. So the master admin should always be you because your master admin can hold you hostage. So you want to make your master admin yourself, or the business owner, or whoever. I would say, as from an SME perspective, keep the master admin for yourself. Now, if you're another owner, you would put it as company admin. The company admin would say, you would click on company admin, you would hit next, you would put person's first name, their last name, their email address, and you would hit save. Once you hit save, they would receive an email and become a user here. So for all intents and purposes, let's put Janine as a master admin as well, company admin. So we put Jen, her last name is Capron, her email address is Janine at executive-business.com, and we would hit save. Once that automatically sends Janine an email saying that you have been invited to this QuickBooks. Once she accepts it, then she would show as active. But as the master admin, I have the right to delete her. So yes, we have the same rights because she's an admin, I'm an admin, but the only thing is I'm a master admin. If you have I don't think there can be two master admins, but you can always put her or him as an admin. And it's great to have a trusted accountant, because if you are on our platform, say for example, there's something that goes wrong, we can always get you resetted, because we can contact QuickBooks, we're pro advisor, that sort of thing. If you do not, we hold our reputation very highly. So at any point, if you discontinue the relationship, obviously, reputation, I would hate to see a social media post about Executive Business Solutions. We will never hold on to your access at all. We pride ourselves in total transparency, honesty, and obviously collaboration with our clients. So I hope that answers the question.
And just one last question, Fee. Are you able to download QuickBooks on more than one computer?
Absolutely. QuickBooks, you're not downloading it. It's a web browser base or an app base. So you can you can go onto the web browser once you have access, meaning that the company has given you access, then you can log on to your web browser. You can log on your phone with the mobile app by going to the App Store and downloading the QuickBooks Online app. and whoever you gave access to would have access to the same platforms, whether it be mobile or your desktop. And you can have multiple screens open for the same company. So if I'm booking one transaction, I can have like 4 or 5 screens open, so I can maneuver and see different things. So that's that. Going back to the gearbox again, like we said, we're going to see our buckets. QuickBooks would have created these buckets for us. I think Cam would have modified some entries, some buckets here, but let me just run you through what these buckets are. Once QuickBooks gives you the buckets, you don't have to worry about what is there. Really, you just need to familiarize yourself with what the buckets are. And obviously, if you have an accountant, an outsourced accountant, which is the way to go, by the way, and this is another shameless plug, you don't need an accountant sitting in your office twiddling whatever and just doing, you can always have a bookkeeper in your office who follows what the accountant requires. And should there be any questions about the actual setup of accounts, then the accountant would be able to walk you through how to set up. But again, you can simply put it in Google it to see how to set up a particular account. It's not that hard, and don't let any accountant tell you otherwise. Reconciliation discrepancies, that's just a bucket. So when you're reconciling between your bank account and your QuickBooks bank account, if you notice something that you cannot, so where did this deposit come from in my bank account? Then you want to put it in your reconciliation discrepancies so that you can go back to it later. Or there's another section that is called Ask My Accountant. I don't know how to get this little yellow thing off my screen, but hey. Now utilities, you can choose to have one bucket of utilities, or you can have multiple buckets with various utilities. So let me show you. The utility is the big bucket. If you want to see what your other expenses would be, you would create buckets under utilities. And you see this button that says new? You would just hit new. It comes up. What type of account is it? It is an expense because it is a utility or whatever you're trying. So it's an expense. Details. What type of expense is it? It is, you can go through
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yes, we have someone that wants to ask a question.
Go ahead.
Tiffany, you can go ahead. Hello.
Okay, so while Tiffany, so you select, and Tiffany, you can ask.
Yeah. They called me, but when I was giving it back, they couldn't hear it.
Oh,
hello?
So you don't have. Hey, Tiff.
Yes, I would like to know if the other user would have access to the banking information and the account also, or could that be advertised?
Yes. Good question, Tiffany. Rather than giving them an admin access, you would give them a standard user access, and we'll go back to that in a second.
Okay.
Because you don't want any and everybody to seeing what you're making in the business to put it on blast. Then you look on BN and you see what you're making right there. They're making all this money and they only paying me $210 a week. So you wanna restrict that. But so we're creating the expense on the utilities. So we're looking, what type of expense is it? Where it is a utility. The name of the expense, we can say telephone, and we're going to specify, since we have two companies now, yay, we'll put VTC, because you can also have another bucket for cable. You can put both of them in the same bucket, but if you want to see what your expenses are for the various telephone bills, it's best you keep them separate. And description, you just put telephone bill. Hey, y'all don't laugh at me if I can't spell, like I deal with numbers every single day of my life. So if it didn't spell right, hey, blame it on Jen. Sub-account, we want to tie this bucket to the bucket of utilities. So we're gonna just put it right on the utilities, so it will show up under there. And that is it. So we're gonna save. Voila. So you would see here, utilities, there's another utility, a plus sign there, and you can just click there. It says my internet unstable. I hope you can still hear me well, Jen. You can just click on the plus sign and it'll drop down and show you all of the various utilities or utilities you have. And that is the concept you can use for a lot of these other buckets here, or general ledgers here, to specify what you want. All right. And then you see other things like trucking expense. Well, I'm sure Metamorphosis wouldn't have trucking. I guess Cam forgot this trucking in here, but it's okay. Whatever, maybe she has trucking to bring her hair from the dock. She has hair to sell. So look, trucking expenses, travel, whatever else, salaries and wages, all these different buckets. Once you specified your industry, QuickBooks will populate your chart of accounts, and you just need to just review it or have your accountant review it to make sure that you have the right buckets. Because when you go to book your invoices and your bills, you want these buckets will come in very important. Good. So you have inventory. Do we have a bucket for sales? I hope we have income, sales. Yes, good stuff. So that is your chart of accounts. It may look pretty in depth, but just know you will see how to utilize your chart of accounts soon. But it's just making sure that you have what you need in your chart of accounts. Now going back to our crescent. Oh. Maybe it's not a crescent, it's a gearbox. Yes.
Yes, someone asked, I use QuickBooks Online, but every day I have to manually input my information in sales, etc. How do I go about avoiding all of that?
They have to get in there somehow. So whether osmosis or actual entry, but you would see that if we utilize the invoices and the sales receipts, then there would be no need to enter them manually. So when a sales come in, I would show you that as we go forward, that once you put the invoices in, you don't need to worry about anything else. This is just, we're at the setup of the company stage. So in this stage, you're basically making sure that you're set up. We're gonna book transactions. Once you set up, you don't need to look back at this section. So don't worry yourself, oh, this looked like a lot of work, right? No, once you set it up right, once you set it up, you don't need to go back to this section. I will show you in a little bit where you focus on. Now, here, the list, we're done with this section, basically, your company. So your company is nice and set up. Looking at the list, here is where you need to make sure your products and services are set. So let's click on products and services. Now, this is what it will look like. There is not here set up, so we're doing it from scratch. Add a product. So Metamorphosis, she may have some products, but it's basically services. So you would see you have sections to choose from. Is it an inventory item, meaning that you have stock? Is it a non-inventory asset? So you don't need to, it is products, but you don't need to track it because the quantities, for example, nuts and bolts, and you don't need to track it. Or is it a service? So in the case of hair salon, they would basically want to populate service. So if the name of my service is, let's see, wash and treat. So my CU number is like a barely need. You can say whatever code you want to track it with. Let's just put W and T. So that's my wash and wash and I guess this is without style. So I'm creating my category. The name of, and this could be here, the category of here. I'm gonna save that category because I may want another category of or another category of description. I'll write my wash and treat. Which bucket am I sending this to? QuickBooks already told you it goes to sales, but if you have a special bucket that you wanted it to go to, then you would select that. But sales is fine. And then I would put, so it says purchase, I purchased this product service from a vendor. No, I don't in this case, because if you click this, it would then ask you for your cost price so that it can show what your markup was and that sort of thing. So if it was a product, then you would click service and you're providing it yourself. No. Good. And so I will save that. Obviously, Metamorphosis would need to work on creating all their products that they provide, but we're going to deal with wash and treat only for now. We go back to our gearbox. Again, you can create numerous services, numerous products. The initial setup will be the most challenging part, but challenging from a time-consuming perspective. Recurring transactions, can make an look at that once we have an invoice set up. And then we can store attachments, like I said previously. And this section we're not going to deal with because we're not importing any data from Metamorphosis today, or we're not creating the. So this is what we have done. Our company is now set up and we're ready to rock and roll and do business. Good stuff. So this is where I leave my gearbox. That is the setting up of your business, guys. Setting up of your business is very important. Put aside, probably I'd say just put aside a day to set up your business properly so you don't get flustered. Do it on one of these lockdown weekends so you're nice and set up. And once you set it up here, it appears naturally on your mobile phone once you would have downloaded the app, and it appears everywhere else, so you don't have to do it multiple times. So that's the setup. Do we have any questions? Any other questions on the setup? Oh, someone had asked about the blocking them from certain, seeing the bank accounts, etc. So if we go back, go to our gearbox, we hit manage users. Again, if I am creating a new user, rather than giving them admin rights, I can choose to only show them certain reports or I'm going to give them standard user. So you can give them, you will see it will ask me to specify the level of usage. So I'm going to hit next, standard user. Now is where I specify how much access do you want this user to have. I can have a standard user with access to everything. I can, and by everything, it would mean this user can see and do everything with customer sales, vendors and purchases. They can also add, edit, delete employees, change preferences, and all these things here they can do. None, no rights, no accounting feature access. This user can use any of the accounting feature, but you can still let them manage certain things and submit their own timesheet. So you, in this case, you're basically limiting them to low gravy. But if you're limiting, if you want to specify, if you have someone who's dealing with only booking transactions, so they're only responsible for sales, then you would give them access to customers. And with this, they would not be able to print checks, make bills, add, edit, delete accounts, view bank register, and all of that. They would only be able to do sales. So enter estimates and invoices, enter charges, and that sort of thing. And so that would be you limiting that employee to only a need to know basis. Or if it's an accounts payable clerk, you would only give them access to vendors where they'll be able to put bills in and the like. So that is how to Tiffany's question, Ms. Brown's question, you can limit the person's access, or was it Tiffany or someone else? You can limit the user by specifying exactly what you want them to do. All right, so that is the setup. Any questions regarding setup? No? Good.
No questions.
Awesome. So that means I was clear as mud. Now we're hitting into, this is where the real action starts. Now you spend some time doing, how would I get this off, Brownie? I see some yellow lines on my screen. Can you see those lines? I don't know how they got there, but he'll figure it out. This is where we do the real business. Now this is you're ready to do, we're back in, Prime Minister Minnis says, listen, hair salons, go back, you make sure you PPE up and all that stuff. I guess someone's drawing on my screen. I did not do that. This is some kind of ghost. Listen, don't make me run out this house right now. I see someone drawing on my screen, but yeah, nevertheless, he says, metamorphosis, you can now, it came off. Metamorphosis, you can now head back to the office, back to the salon. What this means is metamorphosis can now see clients, obviously, on their new platform. Don't be afraid of change. Change is sweet. We just need to capitalize on what the change is. As my SMEs here today, we have the power to make the economy stay stable, remain stable, and not go into recession. You hold the power. So let's work it now. Now, this is unlike the gearbox on the right, this is your gearbox on the left. I mentioned to you that the gearbox, QuickBooks allows you to do the same thing in multiple areas. With the new, here you'd see this box that says new. If you click new, it divides into 4 sections. And those 4 sections can also be found in this listing here. So it just repeats what it has in here. It's okay if you use this section to figure out what you want to do, or you can use it here where you choose what you want done. All right. So if we hit new, what we have here, we have 4 sections. You have your customer section. So this tells you all that you can do when it comes to a customer. You can send them an invoice. Like I mentioned before, an invoice is basically, you use an invoice if you are, if you intend for them to hold off on paying you right away. So if the person came for a wash and treat and it's fee, and you know fee, and you know that fee did not get her NIB unemployment check yet, but you know the money is sure, she only gave you $5 and it's $75, so you know she has a balance of $70. You create an invoice. You show that you received the deposit of $5, and you would have the rest to collect later. Then if you have, the other one is receive payments. Now, if he has the invoice of $70 to pay, Fee has, can we mute all other mics? Fee has the invoice of $70 to pay, and she came in and brought another $5 next week. Then Metamorphosis would hit receive payments. I'll show you it in a minute. So we'll do a live transaction, but Metamorphosis would do receive payment, and it would then reduce the amount from $70 to $65, which Fee now owes. So when that NIB check comes, not that I should be spending my NIB check on my hair and my hair, but hey, a girl has to do what a girl has to do after what, 60 days in solitary. So receive payment, then estimate. Now, if I call and I say Metamorphosis, how much will it charge? Well, how much will you charge me to do my toes, my nails, and whatever else? I am married in this case, so I can't give this example for myself, but or I wouldn't. But my sugar daddy is going to pay for it, but he wants to see an estimate. So Metamorphosis, maybe that's, she says to TMI, she says, sends the estimate nevertheless, showing what the hair, nails, whatever else will cost, plus hair products, so that I can show it to that person. In my case, I would say, just let me know how much it is so my husband could pay for it. And so that is the use of the estimate, from a giving the customer an average, or not an average, but giving them an amount as to what it will cost for the actual service. And if they come back, you can then convert by a click of a button that estimate into an invoice or into a sales receipt. The credit memo basically is giving back. So someone bought something from you, and then you give them, after the fact, you give them like a discount per se, a credit back to their account, because maybe she used a product that caused my hair to thin out or something, and so she's giving me a credit onto my invoice, so I don't have to, just as a goodwill. So that credit memo helps you to give the customer back some monies. And the sales receipt, you would utilize the sales receipt if the person is paying everything on the spot after receiving the service. The refund receipt is if you would have billed the person already, etc., but they came back based on your policy and it's in line with your policy, so they do a refund person, and with a refund receipt, it would adjust automatically your buckets, so things would go down and all things would be equal. Then delayed credit, delayed credit, what is that? I'm not sure if Angelo or Janine or Pam can tell me what a delayed credit, I don't recall. but delayed charge. So we're going to skip that over. This is the most important thing, but I don't recall what those two are. But I'm sure it's something easy to figure out. Vendors, again, this is the difference between when would you use an expense, the expense function, the check function, the bill function, these three. You use a bill when it's just that, it's a bill. So if you receive your bill from BTC or your bill from cable, then as soon as you receive that bill, you put it into QuickBooks as a bill. That shows as an amount owing. And you can always go back to pay the bill. Now, if you write a check, the check is basically, if you didn't have a bill in there, but you went to BPL, they tell you that your bill is $150 and you just wrote the check right away for $150. What you do, or what your bookkeeper does in the office, is take your check stub and book the check that you wrote. And we would see how we book that. And then the expense is now, if an expense occurs that you paid via cash or a wire transfer or something of the sort, there wasn't a bill, but you do an expense. So there are various ways to getting your stuff in. But I would advise you in proper accounting is, when you get your bills, enter them into the system. When you that particular day of the month that you decide to pay all bills, go into your QuickBooks and see what bills you have outstanding, and you pay, then write your checks or pay your bills via checks at that particular point. So, and then the purchase order, like I mentioned to you guys, we all do purchase orders, but we don't call it that. We pick up the phone and we ask them for some acrylic or whatever, if we have a nail place or some shampoo, whatever the case is. If we are actually reselling shampoo and reselling conditioner, it is helpful to do a purchase order, or if we're just buying it for use in the business, we do the purchase order where it creates an order which we can then convert to a bill once the order comes into the business. And vendor credit, it's similar to the credit memo in that they delivered late or whatever else, and they're giving you a credit back on your invoice or on your bill. So you utilize the vendor credit function. And credit card credit. So that's obviously if you're doing a refund back on your credit card, or well, refund is back, but if you're doing a refund on your credit card, then you utilize this function. Print checks, as I said before, we don't usually utilize this. We go through our banks for the checks. Employees, this is, I don't advise QuickBooks Online users to take up the payroll function. I'm a pro advisor, but I'm first and foremost resident of the Bahamas, so I look out first for businesses here before I transfer back to QuickBooks. So I advise businesses here not to take up the payroll function if you have 1 or 2 employees. That would be, if you take up the payroll function, you would be paying extra to QuickBooks for a function that you don't really need. If you only have 1 or 2 employees, then it's best you put it in as a bill, or you use a journal entry, which is more complicated. So I would advise you to write a check. Just put it in as a check rather than doing a whole payroll function. But obviously, if you have many employees and you want to outsource that employee section, Jen is the perfect person to utilize that, to assist you with that. Or then is when you incorporate the payroll function in QuickBooks. Then the other section is basically your bank deposit. So if you making a bank deposit, every time you do a physical bank deposit, you do a virtual bank deposit. So the minute you go to First Caribbean to do a bank deposit, you do that same deposit in QuickBooks, because at the end of the period, you would be doing your reconciliation to make sure that the amount that you would have deposited in your QuickBooks would match what the bank shows as a deposit. And if they don't, then you need to figure out what happened from the time you compiled your deposit to when you actually made the deposit. The transfer, a transfer is basically if you have multiple bank accounts, or you have if you have multiple bank accounts, then you would do a transfer in QuickBooks from that account to the other account, and you would do the same thing on the street, I call it, or at the bank, where you do the transfer from one account to the other, and that could be where you do it from your online platform. And then journal entries. I wouldn't get into journal entries with you, because journal entry, all of these, the customers, the vendors, and all those those sections are basically covered under the journal entry. So as accountants, Angelo, Jen, and myself, we don't necessarily like utilizing these bills and invoices. Well, invoices, yes, but bills and expenses, etc. We would use a journal entry because we know debits and credits, but it's overrated. Let's stick with the expenses and the bills, and obviously statement is where you would, if you need to send a statement to your client. Inventory adjustment. This would be if you need to adjust your inventory, and pay down credit card if you need to pay down on your credit card. So that is that section. Now you would see these under here, all these items. This is basically, yes, go ahead.
Before you move on, someone asked, if I give someone a quote on a job and on completion the job costs more, could I use that quote, convert it to an invoice, and make changes?
Now, we, as small to medium-sized businesses, and everyone under the sound of my voice, like my good preachers would say, we need to try, if we expect a quote to change, we need to specify that in the quote, because we know that we're going to go. The reason why a lot of us buy internationally and bring in is because of the lack of customer service locally, and businesses marking up 300% and all that craziness. But we are the future of the business industry in the Bahamas. So we're gonna stick to our word. We're only gonna mark up at a reasonable percentage for the Bahamian people, because we want to keep the local market. We want people to buy local, because if we buy local, we will avoid this recession thing, or we will contribute greatly to avoiding us going into a recession. But in so doing, we will also make sure that we're ethical, and what we say is what we mean. So if there's a chance for an estimate to change, we will be very clear to the customer that, look, your wash and treat is expected to be $75. However, if you had those braids in the entire quarantine time, look, I may need to possibly add on another X amount of dollars. Don't leave it ambiguous and who knows what. Try to be as specific as possible, and if you can't be specific, be as clear as possible in your estimate. So at the time of conversion, when you're converting the estimate to an invoice, advise is you make your estimate very clear, so that if you need to convert the estimate at the time of the invoice, then it would be self-explanatory. So once you convert it to the invoice, then you can adjust the invoice to what the fine print or the note in the estimate said to the invoice. So it's very flexible to change, but what is not flexible is what we should be mindful of is our commitment to our customers and what we say and our word. I hope I answered your question. Okay, so this section, so we said the new part which has all of those things that we look at, but under here we also have similar things, but there are a few things that aren't covered under the new section. So what are covered under the new section? All the banking, it's basically covered under the new section. Expenses, we saw them covered. Sales, yes. Projects, we didn't see that. Workers, reports, taxes, those aren't covered. So we will skip
Sorry
over.
again, Fee.
Go ahead.
Barbara's iPad, she wants to ask a question.
Go ahead, Bab.
Hello?
Hi, Barbara.
Yes, I wanted to find out on QuickBooks, coming out of Dorian and COVID-19, I'm sure you're gonna have deficit. Where do you put that when you're reopening your business, the deficits?
So, meaning a deficit, meaning your loss?
Yeah.
Good. So basically you would be starting a new period. So when you're bringing if you were on a QuickBooks desktop, when you import the data, it would come onto your balance sheet as retained earnings negative retained earnings. However, if you were paper-based and you're starting on June 1st, then you would put your opening balance in retained earnings as what the deficit was. So that's on the balance sheet section, and that in your chart of accounts is where those buckets that I told you about, when you're setting up the retained earnings, you would have an opening balance and it would be negative.
Thank you.
No problem. So we have here the overview section shows you what the overview was. So if you're populating, you would see here like the transactions that you have for the month, how much you have in your First Caribbean bank account, if that's where you have it, or Metamorphosis credit card, that's how much you have, etc. So this gives like a nice dashboard of what you're working with and an overview, but the dashboard itself gives you how many invoices you have outstanding. It shows you your expenses just from the quick glance, and you just have to pay attention as to whether it's the last 30 days or what it is. So it gives you a nice overview. But let us book some transactions because I see time is going, but we will obviously run over a little bit. So if you have to leave, that is okay. If you don't, then we have nowhere to go anyhow. So stay with me and hang with me a little more. We'll be done shortly. In about 20 minutes, we will be done. So in the new section, if we're doing an invoice, let us do an invoice. So the best thing, rather than populating all of your customers, put your customers as the invoice happens. So I have a customer here, Felicia Boyle-Bazard, and she's a new customer. This QuickBooks would ask you to give more details, or you can do a quick save. So if you only want the name, that's fine. If you want my address and everything else, you can obviously open that. It's good to open that and populate so that you can call me and when come and do my hair and nails again or whatever the case is. So take my full information, put that in. For now, I will just save me as my name in the essence of time. Customer email address, you want to do that. You want to put the email address in because you would want to send the invoice to them via email. You can print these invoices, but I always encourage my clients to send it via email to avoid having the expense of paper and ink and all of that. Just send it via email and they can pull it up. Everybody has an email these days. Billing address, that would populate automatically if you had set me up with an address. If it's an invoice, what is the term? Like I said, it's probably due on receipt, but maybe if you give me 30 days to pay, then what is the invoice date? The invoice date, and what am I doing? The service, this is where the service date, I can put my service date. Today is the 30th. My product, I call it wet and, what was that? Here and treat, right? Yeah. And then the description would come in. I would have that if there's a discount, obviously I can choose between if it's a percentage discount or a value discount. If it's a percentage, then I would specify my 10% discount. It would automatically populate. Sales tax, if we had set up sales tax, then it would come in here with the 12%. I can put whatever message I want to the customer, and that shows me deposit. Remember, I paid, if we had 0 discount, but I paid $5 on the product, so that leaves a balance of that. I can save and send. If I save and send, it automatically populates. Dear Felicia Bazard, here's your invoice. We appreciate your prompt payment. You can change that in the section, the company section that we were in initially, to make it more customer friendly, rather than we would appreciate your prompt payment to whatever you wanted. This is what the invoice would look like with your logo and everything. And click send and close, voila. Guess what? I just received an email in my inbox with the invoice. So, and you would see your dashboard would automatically change. It's populated. So that is how you book an invoice. How you book a sales receipt, obviously is, it's a cash transaction or a check transaction that the customer paid right away. So it populated everything. They don't have a balance owing. And that's my 17-month-old testing for me to get off. So I will make this quick. And again, here you would put your service date, your product or service. So that is wash. Description would automatically populate. Again, this would show where it's important. Payment method. You always select, did they pay via cash? Is it, the only time you select the bank account directly is if they paid via credit card, because the credit card would hit the bank account directly, or if it was a deposit, a direct deposit to the account. However, if it was cash, then rather than the bank account, it would be undeposited funds, because those are funds that you have in the business. You have it undeposited, and then when you actually go to deposit, you would go to the bank account and you would transfer it to the bank so that your reconciliation can be on point. You save the entry, everything unless you had a discount and all of that looks good. We save and send, and that would be an email sent off directly to the customer. Save and close. Good stuff. So we would have, I wouldn't get into all the other things in the essence of time, but you can certainly play around with those. But the main things from a customer, which will help you greatly as a small business, is every sale you do a sales receipt. or you do an invoice. And to the question we had earlier, if you were to do an invoice or you do a sales receipt, there would be no need to have to then go at the end of the day and put all these transactions in, because as you would have done the sales, it would populate in the places that it needed to populate. Now, if we were to do a bill, we got a bill from BPL, vendor, Bahamas Power and Light. This is new because I don't have them set up yet. We can again put all the details with their VAT number and their TIN number and all of that. But I'm gonna do quick add, save it. Based on what my BPL terms are, I would put it in, whether they said it's the bill date, the due date, the bill number on the invoice that I got from BPL. I would then put my category in. Is it utilities? Remember, with utilities, we only had telephone set up, but obviously we can add, similar to how we added the telephone, we can add a new one. But in the interest of time, I wouldn't, and we can set up exactly what the category was, the amount of it. We can put in input VAT. In this case, if we're a VAT entity, we want to make sure that VAT is separated. And then we would obviously save that bill. So if the amount was $300, we would save the bill. That would tell me that we have a bill there for BPL. If we decided to pay it after a while, then we would hit pay bill. Or if you have a bill already, you want to always go to pay bill, because that means we find the bill and we pay it. If we did not have a bill in and we paid it without a bill being in, we would write a check or we would put it as an expense. But I always recommend do the full thing, put the bill payment, because that will then show you what bills you have to pay and help you in your budgeting section. Now, good, so that's created we created our invoice, we created our sales receipt, we created a bill. We can then look at our reports. QuickBooks has great reports. We can then look at our profit and loss statement. And it's just as if you had an accountant in there. So we do, say for example, let's put it there. Made that. You would see QuickBooks gives you the option of accrual and cash. Accrual basis is basically just showing everything, whether they're paid or unpaid. So if you have invoices still unpaid, in the accrual basis, it will show you both paid and unpaid invoices and sales receipts. Similar, it will show you bills if you have them unpaid, and if you paid them, it will show you the actual bill for the period specified. If you only want to see what you did, what you paid out, or what you brought in, cash money, then it would be the cash basis of accounting. So that's just the difference with accrual and cash in a simplistic view. So here we see that we didn't do many things. We could have populated more expenses and income, and it would have been bigger, but we see that the sales is 150, because remember I put in the 75 for the invoice, and then I did another one for the sales receipt. So that included it here. We would see our expenses. So as a small business upfront, you can pull this up any time of the day, night, month, period, and you would be able to see what your net income was. Net income is basically what your income less your expenses. And so you get an understanding of how you're doing financially. And with if going back to the reports, your balance sheet, which we didn't get the chance to populate, but your balance sheet would show all of your assets and your liabilities and that sort of thing. And so, and there are a lot of other reports that you can look at, like your sales for the month, etc. The trick about seeing these under favorites is that if you find a report that you like, you just click the star and it automatically brings it up to the top so that you don't have to go and look for that report again, and you can see, so you'd be able to see, you know, you can go and you can see accounts payable, who you have outstanding. So you see accounts payable, aging. So in this case, we expect to see the BPL bill, and likewise, you can see your receivables, who owe you. Just pull it up either on your mobile or on your desktop. So that's the reports section. And obviously, if you're a VAT entity, you would then set up your taxes. This is a US company, so it would only allow me to set up as if I were in one of the states. If it was an international company, I would be able to set up my VAT in this section. And so when time, if you're monthly or your quarterly VAT payer, when time to run your VAT, it wouldn't be headache at all once you would have reconciled. So we said essentially this is an intro to QuickBooks. Obviously, there are many other things that you can learn as you go along. But I just wanted, Executive Business Solutions just wanted to give you an overview of how you can use the program. And obviously now you can then you look at those YouTube videos and so you can understand various sections of the QuickBooks Online functionality. But we wanted to give you an overview so you get an appreciation of the program and how it can be effective in your organization, and how you can change your current way of doing business and be able to manage better financially and have a better track. Obviously, there are several things or more that you can learn with the program, but you are all very smart. You signed up all on your own. You came on the program, and you have your own businesses first and foremost. So that means this is just a walk in the park and you can get it done. We are always available, Executive Business Solutions. We pride ourselves in being very good to our clients in that what we say is what we give. We do not price hack or anything of that sort. Because our motto is we want to be there for your success. We're dedicated to your success. And that is what we're looking to do with this SME space. And that is what we have done over the past 5 years, giving great service to our clients. You know, I have some clients who they wouldn't move a muscle if they don't call me, you know. And likewise, Janine, Cam, Angelo, the clients assigned under them, hold them in that regard, and we're a team. So if I don't know something, I would liaise with one of the other professionals so we can brainstorm and get it done for you, and vice versa. And if Angelo is on vacation or Janine is out, we all chip in and get it done. So thank you very much. I am gonna take 5 questions now, and we can certainly link back. What I can tell you is each of us will reach out to various clients, various of you. We will share the link to the training with you. We will also share our prices and how we can be of service to you. And obviously, if you want to try it on your own and because of your pennies, dollars, and cents in this regard, that is totally fine as well. And when you're at the point where you know your business is growing and you need to expand and you want an accountant, we would be grateful if you keep us in mind. All right, so questions, shoot them.
Okay, I have a question here. It says, do we post to the bank all expenses as well as deposit, or does the expenses automatically load up?
Good question. Remember the section that I dealt with in terms of bills? So in order to do your expenses, you have a few options. You can create your bill, and if you create a bill, that would automatically be the particular expense that you're dealing with. Or it could be that you're getting inventory and it goes into the inventory section. And if you paid it via check without creating a bill, then that would automatically create the expense. So once you would have done your bills and you would have paid your bills, then that would create the expense one and reduce your bank account balance once you would have paid the expense in the system. So that is just, if you book all your bills, that will help you to really see your financial position, because now you would be in real time, you'd be able to see your accrual basis, you know, whether you paid it or not, you'd be able to see where you stand. And if you, rather than just waiting for when the expense, when you get the bill or when you pay the bill to book it, you want to book it in the system so that you can see at any point where you stand. And also, if you got inventory in, you want to book that in, because that way you want your asset to be increased in terms of your inventory. And so when you sell a good, then it would automatically draw down on the cost of goods sold.
Okay, and next question is, they said, hi, I have an existing small business. I'm looking to complete a business plan to solicit financing to open a storefront. Can QuickBooks help populate estimated future profits?
Yes, QuickBooks can, you would see the budgeting section. We saw, we can actually populate, if you go back to the crescent, where the tools, you go into budgeting, they can do your projections from a budget perspective. And with that, you can do forecasts, etc. But it probably would be better if you were to Cam with her, because she'd spin out those numbers faster than QuickBooks, to show you what your projections are, and also what the business plan really looks like. So you might want to send a private message, or Kira, just give Cam the person's number so that she can get in touch with them.
Someone else said, if I have multiple products and would like to view one, showing a report of how it was sold and if a profit was made or not, how do I access that?
Right. So that is where inventory comes in. We didn't populate it, so to speak, but if we were to do it here, go to your crescent, you would see your products and services. Under your products and services, if you had products, then it would show you what quantity you have left on hand, if you have a reorder point, what the cost price. So under there, once you set up your products and you book your bills in to show that you bought additional products, then you would go under there and you would see your what you have left on hand, and you can do a report, go in the report section and print a report as to what you have left on hand, reorder points, and that sort of thing. So we have 2 more questions.
Just 1 second for me.
Sure. So don't feel as though you cannot ask any questions. Consultation is very much free with Executive Business Solutions. You can always send an email to us, and if you have a question, we would be more than happy to send you back a response. So you don't need to all get your questions in right now. All right, so thank you so much for joining. If I'm sure Kira and Erie would have downloaded any questions I missed, so that I'll just shoot back an email with the answers to the questions due to an interest in time. So thank you very much. We really appreciate you, and please transform the way you do business, lift your game up, and let's make sure that we keep the Bahamas from going into recession. Thank you so much and have a good day.